Hey, what's up guys? It's Texuma talking to you here, and today I'm going to talk about who really needs to upgrade for the iPhone 13 Pro, Pro Max and the 13 lineup in general. So I have here in front a lot of older iPhones, as you can see, since the iPhone 3G till the iPhone XS. I don't have the iPhone 11 Pro, but I can confidently talk about it also because I've held it a lot in my hands in a couple of months, and I can tell you right now, if you have an 11 Pro, you're fine, you don't need to upgrade. And I want to talk about that on this video because the 11 Pro is still an amazing phone, and also for the iPhone 12 Pro, I used it for all of last year, and I can tell you that phone doesn't need an upgrade too. So again, here I have the most older iPhones that there is since the iPhone 3GS until the iPhone XS, and I'm gonna talk about each one and why you should upgrade if you have one of these phones. Again, of course, there are some phones here that are stupidly obvious that you should upgrade. For example, the iPhone 3GS, the iPhone 4, even the iPhone 5 or 5C. These are not usable phones. These are very outdated, even obsolete. But if you have those, please upgrade. Urgently, please upgrade. But again, they are here to show you a little bit of history of the iPhone. But again, it's more important to talk about from the iPhone 6s forward, because these are the phones that have still software upgrade and supportability. So again, before I start talking about which phones from here should you upgrade, roll the intro. If you have an iPhone 5 upwards, you still have a usable phone, let's say that. Of course, the iPhone 4 and the iPhone 3GS are very old, and I do not recommend you using any of these two phones. As you can see here, have the old iPhone 3GS. I don't know if it works still, but it's kind of a very fun phone to take a look at and to use. I love this phone so much, and I hope that Apple one day gets back to this design. But my favorite design ever was the iPhone 4, and this was strange because the iPhone 4 reminds me a lot of the iPhone 13, which has stainless steel sides, and it's a glass sandwich, glass on the back, glass on the front. I like it a lot, but these two phones are obsolete, and from the iPhone 5 forward, they are still usable. You still have iOS 8, 9 or 10, and you are still usable to make it. But again, the cameras, the battery life, it's really bad. So right now, they are not usable. But this is my iPhone collection, so I will want to show you anyway. So this is my iPhone 5, which is, in my opinion, one of the best colors that Apple has ever made on this space black. As you can see, it has a little bit of problems with a lot of these spots and marks, and this is normal, and a lot of these phones have these problems, and that's why Apple tried to remove this color and did not do this color ever again. The iPad mini first generation or second generation also had this problem. And then we have the iPhone 5C. The iPhone 5C is a very fun phone to look at and very fun phone to hold, but a very slow phone. So for the iPhone 5 lineup, there's only one phone that you can still use in 2021 and still be content with it, which is the iPhone 5S. The iPhone 5S still features the iOS 14, and let me tell you, iOS 14 has not been kind for this phone in terms of performance, but it left it with so much support for so many apps that I think that the iPhone 5S is still very usable in 2021. So I think that the iPhone 5S is kind of a strange phone in 2021 because it's a very simple phone. It has the first generation and the oldest generation of 64-bit chips, which is the A7, and this phone is still usable. You can make calls, you can use FaceTime, you can use iMessage, you can use Facebook, YouTube. Every single app has a supported version for the iPhone 5S, and it's still very usable. You can download everything that you need is here, and you can use a phone. You can play some games, not a lot, but some games. The camera is okay to bad. It's not amazing, but it's not that bad. You can use it. But again, if you have the iPhone 5S, please upgrade or try to find some better deals on some older iPhone SEs, or even if you don't have any type of money, well, consider older iPhones and used iPhones. But if you have some type of money like $500, $600 and you want to buy an iPhone right now, I would recommend you try to get an iPhone 11 Pro used or refurbished. And if you can't, try to find an iPhone XS Max refurbished, because those are very great deals. They are still very amazing phones with the new design, and they are very good. Again, if the iPhone 11 it's not a good buy for you because you don't like the LCD screen, well, go for the iPhone XS and XS Max refurbished. But if the iPhone 11 you don't mind the LCD screen, the iPhone 11 is also a very, very great option for you to go if you have around $500 to $600. But if you have the iPhone 5S, consider upgrading because it's time. It's more than enough. Your phone needs a rest now. It needs to go to retirement. Now, next to it, we have the iPhone 6S and the iPhone 6. The iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6S, although they share the same design, they have not that much similarities. The iPhone 6 was not that much powerful than the iPhone 5S, but it had the iPhone 6S design. So the iPhone 6 is not a great phone. It has some problems with, it wasn't that fast and it didn't get that much upgrades. It stopped on the iOS 12 with the iPhone 5S or iOS 13. And at the same time that the iPhone 5S stops getting upgrades, the iPhone 6 stopped getting upgrades. So again, the iPhone 5S, 6, they are on the same boat. If you have one of these phones, it's time to upgrade. Try to find an iPhone 11, even an iPhone 12 or an iPhone 11 Pro, used, refurbished, some type of an older but new design iPhone that you can find used or refurbished for a great deal, because right now these two phones are barely usable, the iPhone 5S and the iPhone 6, and so I don't recommend you getting or using any type of these phones just because of, first, security, because you don't have any type of software securities, and Apple has considered these older phones and in a few months or years they will get obsolete. So consider upgrading now because you will have a lot more experiences and you will have a lot better camera systems, a lot better battery lives, and way better software supportability. So again, if you have the iPhone 6 or the iPhone 5S, it's urgent for you to upgrade of your phone. And the iPhone 13 Pro Max, if you have the money, it's a great deal. You will notice one of the biggest, not the biggest jumps in camera performance, battery life, performance in general, and it's a huge phone, so prepare yourselves. Then we have the iPhone 6S. This is the oldest phone on their lineup to get the iOS 15 upgrade. And I gotta tell you, it's a very slow phone for today's standards, but it gets very hot when using iOS 15. I have a video on my channel talking about the iPhone 6S on iOS 15, but I think that the iPhone 6S is not as bad as a phone as you might think. So if you have an iPhone 6S and you think that you can still get one more year out of your phone, you don't need to upgrade. If you are one of those people that you think that you should get the most amount of your phone until it dies or stops getting software upgrades, then you still have one more year for the iPhone 6S and you probably should not upgrade because of that. But in my opinion, you should definitely upgrade for the iPhone 13s because the iPhone 6S is slow, the battery life is very bad. Even if you have a new battery, the performance is very bad. It gets very hot, the cameras are very bad, and you can get cheap phones that cost you around $300-400 way better than this. So I believe that the iPhone 6S is not an alternative for you in 2021, even if it has iOS 15. So if you have an iPhone 6S, consider upgrading. If you don't have the money, then try to stick with it one more year, but next year it's really time to send your phone to retirement and get a new iPhone. Then we have the iPhone 7 family. The iPhone 7 family was composed by two iPhones, the iPhone 7 here and the iPhone 7 Plus right here. These two phones were not that big of an upgrade in terms of design. They had new colors and a new camera bump, but they were more of an upgrade in terms of internal specs. It featured the A10 chip, which was an amazing chip, one of the most powerful jumps in terms of CPU performance from the A9 to the A10. And this A10 Fusion chip was incredible just in terms of performance as well as camera performance, because these two phones had way better cameras than the iPhone 6S, and finally you could shoot 4K video on the smaller lens phone. So before, only on the iPhone 6S Plus you could shoot 4K video. Now it's available on the iPhone 7. These two phones were great at the time, and if you have those right now, you don't need to urgently upgrade. I would put you in the category of you probably should upgrade, but you don't urgently lean to, like the iPhone 6S or older. So if you have the iPhone 7, especially the iPhone 7 Plus, because it has a bigger battery, you should upgrade. But if you don't want to, then don't. Wait one more year, see what Apple does. These are very tolerable phones. If you have the iPhone 7 Plus, then well, it's a great phone still, and you don't need to upgrade. The cameras are very good. It has portrait mode, and the video is 4K 30 frames per second. It's not that bad. The biggest jump was from the iPhone 7 to the iPhone 8, but the iPhone 7 Plus is still very good in a lot of topics. Still have iOS 15 and probably iOS 16. It has the A10 Fusion chip, and also the colors are cool. It was the first phone to ditch the headphone jack, and so I have very fond memories of this phone, the first time that Apple launched the AirPods 2. So again, the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus, one of my favorite, not the favorite iPhone that I've ever had, and I noticed the biggest jump going from the iPhone 6s to the iPhone 7, then the iPhone 7 to the next phone, which was the iPhone 8. The iPhone 8 was a very boring phone. It had a glass back, so it added wireless charging. It had the same chip, which was the A11, as the iPhone 10, which was the most revolutionary phone ever, in my opinion, in terms of iPhones. But the iPhone 8, and focusing on the iPhone 8, was a very, very boring phone. This phone was only added wireless charger, and it had the A11, and that's it. That's what the iPhone 8 added. But one thing that people misunderstood about the iPhone 8 was the camera. It didn't have the same sensor as the iPhone 10, but it has an amazing sensor. For example, this sensor could capture 4K 60 video for the first time on iPhones, and so it was way smoother, the video quality, and way better actually. HDR was better, and so picture quality was very good. The colors were more crisp, and it let more light in. So the A11 was such a big jump in terms of neural performance that the camera performance was very much improved. And I noticed the differences going from the iPhone 7 to the iPhone 8 in terms of camera quality. But I think that the iPhone 8 was still very boring. If you have one right now, you don't need to upgrade. Let me tell you, it's still very fast. The iPhone 8 is still usable if you don't use your phone for more than make calls, social media. The iPhone 8 is usable. It still has the old design, Touch ID, and power button. It has bezels, big bezels. It has the same design as the iPhone SE. But if you like, I would put it on the category of not urgent to not needs to. So it's still between of, if you really need to upgrade, then upgrade, of course, because of your battery life or every other things like new designs and Face ID. But if you like this old design, then I don't think you should upgrade, because the iPhone SE is not a big jump in terms of performance or design improvements. The A13 chip is very cool, but the A11 is also very cool, so you gotta weigh out things. So again, I think that the iPhone 8 is still a very good phone in 2021. You can still use it completely fine, and I would still recommend you try to stick with it one more year, and then next year you will upgrade on the iPhone 14. The iPhone 13 Pro, of course, is a very good choice if you go from the iPhone 8, and you will notice a lot of big differences, such like the cameras and the new design. But if you are like a person focused on money, and you like to save money, and you like to take and squeeze the most value out of your phone, it's not urgent to upgrade the iPhone 8, and you don't need to upgrade the iPhone 8 if you have one. But if you have the iPhone 8 Plus, you have even less reasons to upgrade, because that phone has two cameras and it has portrait mode, which is incredible. It has bigger battery, which enables better battery life. So you can see that from the iPhone 7 to the iPhone 8, you have this strange category that you should upgrade, but you don't really need to. So if you want to upgrade, if you don't want to, don't. Then in the same year as the iPhone 8, Apple changed the iPhone forever. They launched the iPhone 10. The iPhone 10 featured the most revolutionary design and big design change ever on the iPhone history. It's one of my favorite phones, and probably the favorite iPhone ever in terms of these changes. It introduced the notch, introduced small bezels, removed the power button, removed everything that you can think of. And also, this phone featured a better camera, and probably the first time that Apple really focused on the camera on an iPhone. And I think that on the back we had a telephoto camera and a wide camera. This phone was big. It had a 5.7-inch display, which in today's standards is small, but it was big compared to the iPhone 8 and smaller when compared to the iPhone 8 Plus in terms of size, but it had a bigger screen than the iPhone 8 Plus. So it had 5.8 inches on a smaller design was the perfect screen for the time, and Apple didn't launch the Plus until next year with the iPhone XS. So the iPhone 10 was a very cool phone. It featured the A11, the same performance as the iPhone 8. So right now, if you have the iPhone 10, you don't need to upgrade. From the iPhone 10 onwards, you don't need to upgrade if you don't care about the camera. If you don't care about the camera, then don't upgrade. You don't need to. the things that came on the most recent iPhones, like the display 120 Hz, doesn't make a difference if you are not a tech guy. So only if you like your camera and you use the camera a lot, you should upgrade, because the camera on the iPhone 10, it's a little bit old, it's getting old. You can notice that it's not as good as the newer phones, but everything else feels new, feels incredible, feels very, very premium. And so I still recommend you try to stick with your iPhone 10 if you have one. Then Apple introduced one of the most S ears ever, the iPhone XS. The iPhone XS is this phone here that I show you, try to present the iPhone 10. This is an iPhone XS. You can see by the wallpaper, if I can show you, this is an iPhone XS. But the iPhone XS had a few changes in terms of design. The only design change was the antenna bands. It added some antenna bands, and that's it. It was a little bit heavier, but the iPhone XS added Smart HDR, and the camera performance was a little bit better noticeable when compared to the iPhone 10, and I can say it was a jump from the iPhone 10. It had noticeably better cameras, and so I recommend you, if you have an iPhone XS right now, the only drawback on this phone is the battery life, because it gets very, very hot and the battery life is not that good. If you have an iPhone XS Max, then you probably should be able to stick to that phone for 3 or 4 years, so you don't need to upgrade. But if you have the iPhone normal XS, which a lot of people do, the battery life is kind of getting bad. So instead of upgrading your phone, try to upgrade or renew your battery. It's not that expensive, and you can do it yourself now with the Apple self-repairing program. Buy a battery and remove the old battery and put the new battery yourself, or go for a shop and they will be able to buy new genuine batteries from Apple. So again, if you have the iPhone XS, I don't recommend you upgrading for the iPhone 13s, but I do recommend you try to replace your battery if you have a short battery and your battery life is not that good as they used to be, because that's the only problem that I have with the iPhone XS in 2021, because the cameras are still good. It misses the ultra wide, but that's the only thing with the camera. It misses the ultra wide. It doesn't have night mode. If you need those two, upgrade, but if you don't do. Then finally we have the iPhone 11, 11 Pro, 11 Pro Max, 12, 12 Pro, 12 Pro Max, and 12 Pro Mini. These 5, 6, 7 phones that you have here, actually 7, that's a lot of iPhones for only 2 years. Those, if you have one of those, don't upgrade. I strictly recommend you not to upgrade, because the iPhone 13s, when compared to these phones, are still very iterative and they don't have a lot of changes. So again, only if you have an iPhone 6s to backwards, it's urgent to upgrade, very urgent to upgrade. If you have an iPhone 7 to the iPhone 8 lineup, I recommend you to upgrade, but it's not necessary, and you can still hold on for your phone for a little bit more time. But if you go for the iPhone 10 until the iPhone 12s, I don't recommend you upgrading unless you like camera performance. And if you have the iPhone 11 forwards, I really don't recommend you upgrading, because your cameras still have night mode, you still have the ultra wide camera, you still have the telephoto if you have the pros, and the battery life is still very good when compared to the 13s. The only differences would be the display, which is now 120 Hz and only on the Pro models. But this is my iPhone collection. What do you think? Do you like it? I can make a video separated trying to show you all of my iPhones, try to tell you my stories with it, and with them, which iPhones did I use, which one did I buy later, and let me know all that on the comments down below. And while you're there, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to my channel, and thank you for all of your support. Of course, don't forget to follow my social networks, Twitter and Instagram. This was Tech Summer talking to you here. Bye.